The United Nations General Assembly Hall was tense on February 9, 2026. The world's eyes were glued to the screens, US and China poised for confrontation, Russia ready to issue warnings. Delegates from the world's most powerful nations filled the room, their presence dominating the atmosphere. News tickers flashed urgent headlines, analysts speculated, and the stakes felt higher than ever. The script was familiar. The superpowers would spar, the rest would watch. Smaller nations, like the Philippines, were expected to pass by unnoticed. As the President of the General Assembly called the next speaker, few paid attention. I now give the floor to the Special Envoy of the Republic of the Philippines, Mr. Mateo Capitan. Most delegates barely looked up. The Philippines was a footnote, a brief pause before the main event. But history has a way of surprising us. Sometimes, the most profound moments come from the quietest corners. As the previous speaker finished, Mateo Capitan approached the podium. A few heads turned, but the world's narrative was set. Today belonged to the powerful. No one expected what was about to happen. The cameras rolled, the world waited, and the story was about to change. No one, not in that hall or watching at home, saw what was coming next. Mateo Capitan did not command attention with stature or bravado. He moved with quiet grace, his face marked by both hardship and hope. Unlike the sea of dark suits, he wore a barong Tagalog, its embroidery telling stories of farmers, fishermen, and families. It was a garment of community, not power. He stood at the podium, hands resting lightly, and looked out, not with challenge, but with genuine connection. In that moment, he represented not just a nation, but millions of stories. The room's indifference shifted to curiosity. Who was this man? Why was he silent? Why did he stand so still? Reporters paused, delegates looked up. For the first time, the world was truly focused on the Philippines. Silence filled the hall. Not awkward, but profound. Mateo let it linger, inviting the room to breathe and listen. The world's most powerful diplomats were held captive by a man who had yet to speak. He took a slow, deep breath, a simple gesture that cut through the formality. He looked into the main camera, offering a respectful nod, not just to the assembly, but to everyone watching. In that moment, he connected with farmers, nurses, teachers, parents, ordinary people everywhere. The silence created intimacy, as if he was about to share a secret. Finally, he leaned toward the microphone. The anticipation was electric. What could this quiet envoy possibly say to a world on edge? The news tickers paused. Analysts held their breath. The machinery of global diplomacy stopped, focused on this one man. The silence had wiped the slate clean. The storm was about to break, not with thunder, but with the quiet power of a new idea. The world waited. We measure the strength of nations in GDP, in military might, in technology, Mateo began, his voice calm and sincere. My country, the Philippines, is often low on these lists, but perhaps we are measuring the wrong things. A murmur rippled through the hall. This was not the expected script. For decades, power has meant the ability to command and control. But what if true power is the ability to endure? What if it's found in the resilience of the human spirit? He paused, letting the question settle. In the Philippines, we call this bayanihan. It's not just a word, it's a spirit. It's the act of a community coming together to lift a neighbor's house, to share burdens, to help each other. This is our measure of power. It's our greatest export, our most valuable resource. The concept was simple, yet profound. A direct challenge to the world's competitive ethos. He wasn't talking about governments or armies, but about people. True strength is not a weapon to wield, but a bond to share. In that moment, Mateo spoke not just for the Philippines, but for every community ever told it was powerless. The delegates listened, their attention fully captured. He was redefining power for the world. The hall was silent, hanging on his every word. Let me show you where this power lives, Mateo said, his tone turning personal. It lives in the hands of a farmer who helps his neighbor replant after a storm, sharing his own harvest so no one goes hungry. It lives in the heart of a Filipino caregiver in London, working double shifts not just for her family, but for the patient who has no one else. She is not just an overseas worker, she is an ambassador of empathy. This is not weakness, this is strength. The delegates saw vivid scenes, snapshots of hope and resilience. It lives in the fisherman who searches for his missing friend after a storm, in the teacher who wades through floodwaters to reach her students. These are not acts of desperation, but of unwavering hope. Mateo wasn't listing examples. He was weaving a tapestry of everyday heroism. The true story of his country was not one of victimhood, but of relentless, defiant community. Where the world saw vulnerability, the Philippines had cultivated its most unbreakable power. The narrative was changing. The world was listening. The spirit of Bayanihan shines brightest in tragedy, Mateo continued. When Super Typhoon Yoru struck, headlines spoke of devastation, but they missed the real story. Neighbors formed human chains, strangers shared their last food, community kitchens sprang up from nothing. He described a young man who, after losing everything, set up a charging station so others could contact loved ones. With one power strip, he created hope in the darkness. Is that not power? Mateo's words elevated the response to suffering. We do not wait for help. We are the help. Bayanihan is our first response, our social security, our national defense. It is a power that cannot be sanctioned or broken by any storm. He let the idea settle. The Philippines' strength was not in its military, but in its soul. It was a power built on millions of small acts of kindness and solidarity. It grew stronger in adversity, a concept foreign to traditional power. The delegates understood. The world was seeing the Philippines anew. For too long, my people have been seen as victims, Mateo declared, his voice rising. We are grateful for help, but we are not a nation of victims. A people who face a dozen typhoons a year and still sing are not victims, they are heroes. He rejected the narrative imposed on his country. A nation that sends its children across the globe as healers and caregivers is not weak. We are the threads that weave your societies. To see us only as labor is to miss our greatest gift, our humanity. The shift was seismic. The diaspora was not a loss, but an export of compassion. When you look at the Philippines, do not see a problem, see a solution, see a model for a different kind of strength. We build bridges of human connection, not walls. We are not defined by what we lack, but by what we give. We are not victims. We are victors of the human spirit. The hall was transfixed. A new identity was being claimed. When Mateo Capitan finished, a profound silence filled the hall. It was the silence of awe. For 10 seconds, nobody moved. Then a single delegate stood and applauded, then another and another. Soon, the entire chamber was on its feet, united in a thunderous ovation. It was not polite applause, but an outpouring of respect and recognition. Tears glistened in many eyes. Reporters stood, their detachment forgotten. Mateo had not delivered a speech, but a revelation. He had reminded the world what it meant to be human. Headlines were rewritten. A new voice emerges at the UN. Philippines redefines global power. Mateo stood at the podium, hand over his heart, bowing in gratitude. He had come not for accolades, but to share his people's story. The ovation continued, a testament to the impact of his words. In that moment, the Philippines was the moral center of the world. The day was no longer about the clash of titans. It was about the quiet strength of the human heart. The world had changed, and everyone knew it. The echoes of Mateo Capitan's speech reverberated across the globe. His words ignited a global conversation. Bayanihan entered the international lexicon. Leaders began to speak of social resilience and community capital. The UN's debates shifted. Humility and new measures of power emerged. Aid programs focused on empowering communities, not just building infrastructure. The Philippines became a teacher, not just a recipient. This was not an overnight transformation, but a seed had been planted. The idea that a nation's worth lies in its people's compassion and unity took root. It offered an alternative to the zero-sum game of dominance. The world felt different, more hopeful, more connected. Matteo's message became a source of inspiration. True power was redefined, not in armies, but in communities. One quiet speech had given the world a new way to see itself.